Okay, Ralph, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It's January 13th, 2021. I got 4:02 p.m. and I'll start out by taking roll. I am here. Wendy Leese.
Here. Present.
Tom Pollock.
Here.
Bob Juneman.
Here.
Al Malone.
Here.
Matthew Parlow. Nope. Anna Verska.
Here.
Here. Okay, thank you. And then Tom Arnold.
Here.
Okay, so we got everybody here except for Matthew. Katrina Foley? Not yet. We got Carol here. And I assume Jennifer King.
There she is.
Yes, she's here.
And Angie. Okay. Well, happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2021. We're all saying it's got to be better than 2020. So with that, Angie, are there any public comments?
No, there were no public comments submitted.
Okay. That moves us to the approval of the minutes. This is from our December 9th meeting. Angie sent those out a number of days ago. Hope you all had a chance to take a look at them. Are there any comments on the minutes?
I so move on number 4, approval of the minutes of the October 14th meeting and the November 18th, 2020 special meeting.
We already did the 18th, I thought. Yeah, we approved the 18th last meeting.
Okay, so then just approving, all right, I'm reading the wrong place. The December 9th minutes, which included those 2 minutes to approve. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, the meeting, yes, we did. Okay, do I have a second?
You have a second, Tom Arnold?
Tom Arnold. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
I gotta do that. Wait a minute, I gotta do this thing. I'm a yay. Wendy,
Yes.
Tom Pollock,
Yes.
Robert Juneman,
Yes.
Al Malone,
Yes.
Anna Verska,
Yes.
Tom Arnold.
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. It's 7-0 with one absent. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's do, we try and do where we can or committee member comments when time permits, and time permits today. So do we have any member comments?
I have a comment.
We got a three minute time limit here. Wendy?
So, Mr. Chairman, are we changing then? Because last meeting, there were written comments that I noted, but as a committee member, I would like to ask if it's possible for the staff, when there's a committee member comment that's written, that we receive a copy of it. I don't remember if we got, because Tom and Al and Anna had written comments. So if we are doing written comments, I hope that we can receive a copy of it so we know what's going on. And then if maybe somebody, I noticed that Madam Mayor is here, it can comment on the status of the committee. I guess that in the minutes and at the council meeting, it was to receive and file the combination of finance and pension with economic development. So I would just like to know how we can continue to present our opinion and maybe participate in the study session if that's where the city council will be discussing the changing of the FiPAC. So that's all I have.
Okay, I was going to comment on that when I make some comments. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Anybody else?
I
Committee
do,
member
Al.
comments? Al?
Yeah, regarding the agenda today, I like the idea that we're going back to where we can make member comments without meeting a 2:00 deadline in writing. And the reason we probably don't have anything in writing is because we're here now to make comments, and we got 3 minutes, and that's plenty. The second comment I've got is I'm a little bit disappointed, though, that we're still not addressing current events. As a member of what used to be an oversight or advisory committee, I'd grown accustomed to dealing with current events. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're at the half point of our new year. Where do we stand with the budget? What's happening with South Coast Plaza? What's happening with making payments on CalPERS? It appears that the CalPERS rate has gone up over 40% for Anaheim and many other cities. Is there any way we can address what's happening? We're in the middle of a year. Are we on budget? We have challenges. I don't know what they are. Are we meeting those challenges? What are we doing to meet those challenges? I would just like to see future meetings go back to more current and future stuff so that we can be dialed in other than from what we can read in the newspaper. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph?
Bob?
Yes. First of all, I second Al's comments, Ralph. Thank you very much for going back to the old format, allowing us to make spontaneous comments. I think it'll be for much better meetings. Also, as to what Wendy said, it occurs to me that this could very well be the last FiPAC meeting as it's currently constituted, since we're all termed out. And I assume that the new appointments will be made next Tuesday. Is that still correct?
No.
Okay, at any rate, I would like to know, perhaps Ralph, later you will, or if Katrina comes on, will the appointments be made next week? If not, when? And will the new FiPAC be constituted when it does convene? Will it convene under the same mission statement that we're currently operating on right now? So Ralph, you said maybe later you will make some of those comments. That's it for me. Thank you.
So we don't have to keep going over it and over it again. We're not changing anything.
Katrina, we can hardly hear you, but let's
Can't hear you.
yeah, let's keep going, and then we can address those.
Don't want to have to keep repeating the same question. We're not changing anything. At this time, we're not changing anything. We're going to appoint people in February.
Okay.
Ralph, I have a comment too. I'm not sure how the order is going.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Katrina. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, so I had a question of why this was a special meeting. Also, I'd like to request a copy of the CAFR when it's available. Brenda said that it's being printed, so I thought maybe we could get a digital copy in the interim. And I feel like the change to the comments is kind of willy-nilly. Also, so I've enjoyed contributing to FiPAC and the fiscal well-being of Costa Mesa. Going forward, I have concerns about the direction Katrina Foley is leading the city. She has undemocratic leanings. It's her way or the highway.
Can we,
when her way busts into
Anna, can we take the politics out of this?
As when it comes to the First Amendment and censorship comments she doesn't like or finds embarrassing. She's no stranger to giving special privileges to entities of interest that fund her campaigns. These behaviors needlessly expose the city to liability and legal expense at an already precarious time. In a time when the city is in crisis and needs her full attention, she's yet again running for higher office. Many important and controversial issues are being delayed until after the election, namely One Metro West, the behemoth of a project. If you remember, earlier they paid for our city staff to expedite the handling of their application, so it could be on the November election, which it wasn't. The PLA, which is the payment labor agreement, a few months ago, there was the meeting that went, until like 1 in the morning, and then that never came back. And the signage at Triangle Square, that's been kind of percolating since the early part of last year. And my feeling is this will come back, after the election, because a lot of people don't like all of these things. And that's just to name a few. So though I wish Costa Mesa the best, I feel like it's going to take more than good wishes for us to get through this difficult time. And we might need a little bit of a change in direction. And Ralph, I appreciate this time to speak, but, politics is involved in finances. It's all one and the same. You can't really tease them apart. And some of the things going on, like the First Amendment issues, I know because I'm speaking to an attorney where there was bleeping out at one meeting, not bleeping out at another. And, political speech is very highly protected. So all I'm saying is someone's whim can't be leading the city because it gets us in trouble. Thank you.
Point of personal privilege.
Okay,
Point of personal privilege. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have done this, but there's many false statements made in that statement that I must correct. Almost every single thing that was said has nothing to do with me. So as it relates to the Triangle project, it's my understanding from planning that item will be on the Planning Commission agenda in their first meeting in February. As it relates to One Metro West, I have no idea what the status of that project is. I've played no role in delaying it. If I had to speculate, it would be that our city staff, especially in our planning department, are completely overwhelmed right now with retirements and shortages of staff, and they're doing everything they can to get things moved forward. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm not involved in it at all. As it relates to the community workforce agreement, I have a conflict of interest on that item. And so I have not spoken to anyone about that due to that conflict. As it relates to bleeping out comments on communication during the city council meeting, again, not at my direction, didn't know about it until I heard about it from Ms. Verska at the meeting and didn't know that we had done that. So that was a decision made by, I suppose, the city attorney. I'm not sure who. So none of these items are anything I've directed or have anything to do with. And so I do think that it's disingenuous to falsely mislead the public. I also think that Ms. Molina is going to actually share the CAFR. That's what's the item on the agenda here today, which will address all of the current events and show what great leadership we have with how well our funds are right now. Thank you.
okay. All right, any other committee members? Okay, thank you. That leaves me. Okay, I'll try and go these things quickly. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. As I've said before, hope 2021 is better than 2020. There is a council goal session meeting on January 29th, where city council and executive staff get together and discuss the upcoming year and the goals for that year. So I'm sure Zoom information will come out on that closer to that meeting. And I would encourage all of you who can to listen in or contribute. I guess there'll probably be public comments to that meeting, but listen in on that. Question for Carol when she comments is if there's a date yet for the mid-year study session, which kind of goes to Al's comments. Mid-year just finished, as everybody probably knows, on December 31st. So they're getting the numbers as we speak, probably. Yes, the CAFR is complete. From what Carol told me the other day, is it's at the printer and should be available, I'm assuming, within a few days to committee members. Let's see, member comments. Tom had a couple comments from last month. They were submitted. They were written comments. I addressed to Tom a couple of his comments on the mobile command center. I think Carol's also going to have some comments on that. Al had some comments, which he repeated some today on the pensions. I will say this, I did a little bit of research. If you look at the last 5-year forecast, which goes back to the prior year, for that 5-year period of time, pensions were set to increase 30% over that 5-year period of time. And that is probably a little understated because the 5-year did not have any increases in salaries forecasted, which there will be increases in salaries. So with that, pension costs will also increase. The unfunded liability as of last June of 2020, or let's say July 1st of 2020, the unfunded liability is 314. And Jennifer King, you probably know this number more than anybody. Are familiar with it. It's 300. I got 314.5 million. That's a 7% increase from the prior year. So our unfunded liability is definitely going up. It's gone up about 35% in the last 5 years. So some of that is attributable to, well, most of it's all attributable to CalPERS, but that liability is there. It's getting larger, unfortunately. And what else? Next month, kind of to Al's point, I wanted to bring up with the 115 trust, which the committee addressed about a year ago before COVID. And also, as I mentioned before, pension obligation bonds. And my understanding is Wendy mentioned it was discussed at the December council meeting, the merging of economic development in with FiPAC. That got deferred. There was discussion on pushing that decision at least until after the goal setting meeting in January, which I'm sure economic development will be a big topic at that meeting. And so a decision might be forthcoming after the goal setting meeting. There was the decision by council to reduce the size of this committee though. Right now we're at 11 members approved. We currently have 8 members, but it was council approved to reduce the committee to 9 members. And with that, I think that's it for my comments. That brings us to new business. And we have, as their mayor mentioned, the first peek at the CAFR. Carol's gone through the year-end numbers. This is year-end FY 1920 with us a couple times. Last month, she gave us at that point in time, the latest numbers. And but the final audit had not been completed as of our meeting in December. So the numbers are in, the auditors bought off on the numbers, and Jennifer King and then I guess Jennifer Farr from the audit agency will be presenting the CAFR. And then hopefully, like I said, maybe Carol can update that, is we should, when hard copies will be available, I expect sometime very soon. And with that, Carol, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Ralph. I do want to take a moment to thank everybody, all the FiPAC members, City Council, and the city's leadership team in helping with the results of the 1920 CAFR. As you know, and as I've mentioned before, I've been very excited to share these results and having them finalized and formalized by Jennifer Farr and her firm. That I'm sure you'll be pleasantly happy about some of the results that they'll be sharing with you. As you know, the auditing process for the city is a long and arduous process. It actually starts with Jennifer King and her staff as soon as July 1st hits and the books start to close. They then start to prepare all of the documentation and processes for the auditing firm to come in and start their process of making an independent judgment of the city's finances. Jennifer Farr and her team came on board to the city of Costa Mesa in October and has been working alongside the accounting staff all these months to make sure that all of the records and internal controls are properly in place. I want to thank staff and Jennifer Farr and Davis Farr firm for all of their hard work. I know that this is a long and difficult process under normal circumstances. And this year we had the additional level of having to manage COVID, of making sure that all of the documentation was properly provided to the firm, while at the same time ensuring safety protocols for both our staff as well as her staff. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer so she can start the presentation. Jennifer.
Thank you, Carol. And I will share my screen. Sorry. Can you see my screen? The PowerPoint presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I really want to thank you all for joining us today to discuss the final fiscal year 1920 financial performance results, and also the audited financial statements. And as Carol had mentioned, with us today is Jennifer Farr from the audit firm, Davis Farr, the city's independent auditor, who will join us for the presentation. So today we're going to discuss a couple of areas, and I would like to do an overview of the city's finance, just more of a summarized version, high-level version of the city's financial structures. And I will also go in a little bit detail on the governmental accounting, which is different from private sector accounting. And Jennifer Farr, Ms. Farr will discuss the auditor's report. And this is something that we have been waiting for all year long. And also finally, we'll discuss the 1920 financial performance results. And before we begin with the financial performance result, I just want to take a few minutes to maybe do a quick overview of the city finance structure. And I'm also going to highlight a couple of major areas that distinguish municipal accounting from private sector accountings. As we all know, the city's fiscal year begins from July 1st to June 30th. And we are a full service city, meaning that the city provides police and fire protection services, as opposed to some other Orange County cities that contract with OCFA and the sheriff's department. And the general fund is the city's operating fund, which provides the most services, with $142 million budget for fiscal year 1920. The other funds of the city account for the additional $30 million adopted operating budget for a total $172 million operating budget across all funds. And the city's accounting practice is based on GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles for municipal agencies, this accounting practice is used by every municipal agencies in the United States to ensure uniform accounting practice and reporting. And the reporting structure is regulated by GASB, which issues standards set forth reporting requirements for our audited financial statements. And one of the unique features of municipal accounting is the fund accounting. Essentially, it's a set of accounts that's self-balancing, and it contains revenues and expenditures specifically for certain activities or purposes. And the city has a total of 32 funds that are reported in 6 fund categories as defined by GASB. And I'll go into a little more detail on the type of funds. Essentially, we have one general fund. We have a total of 13 special revenue funds and 10 capital projects fund, 2 debt service fund, 3 internal service fund, and 3 agency funds. On this slide, it just gives everybody a little bit of definition on how the funds are different. And general fund is the chief operating fund. And special revenue funds is really used to track revenues and activities that are restricted by external rental agencies or parties for certain purposes. And the capital projects fund is to account for large capital projects. And the city has 2 debt service funds, which accounts for 2 debt issuance that the city has on its books, and is the 2006 revenue bonds, as well as the 2017 lease revenue bonds for the Lions Park project. And the city has 3 internal service funds, which provides services to other departments, to other city departments. And those services consist of vehicle replacements, IT equipment replacements, as well as risk management insurance for other departments. And we also have a couple of agency funds which host funding accounts for when the city is in a fiduciary position. We are holding that for other entities' benefit. And on this slide, I would like to talk a little bit about the 1920 audit overview. So as mentioned before, the annual audit is performed by Davis Farr, an independent accounting firm. And our audit, it's required a federal single audit, which covers the city's audited financial statements, as well as compliance audit of federal programs. And it also includes, with the compliance, is the internal control over transactions. And so for our fiscal year 1920, our CAFR, the audited financial statements, receive a clean opinion. And our CAFR, it is award-winning. We have been receiving awards from GFOA, the National Reporting Professional Municipal Agency Association for the past 22 years. So we continue that tradition. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Farr for her to report on the audit financial statements.
Thank you, and hello to the committee members. I'm happy to be here to present the audit results to you at today's meeting. As mentioned, I am the partner in charge of the engagement, and Davis Farr specializes in providing financial statement and compliance audits to government agencies. We have an additional specialty with cities, and we provide services to over 30 cities in California and predominantly in Southern California. Next slide, please. Our audit engagement includes expressing an opinion on the comprehensive annual financial report. And we are also engaged to audit the Financing Authority, the Public Financing Authority, the Housing Authority, and other reports. There are 2 reports that we are engaged to audit that we have not issued yet, and that is related to the fact that the federal government has delayed their guidance to auditors on how to audit the COVID-19 related CARES Act funding. They just released that guidance right before Christmas, and because of that, we are now starting the audit in the January timeframe and anticipate finalizing that shortly. Our audit opinion is the first page of the CAFR after you go through the introductory section. And the audit opinion states that the city management is responsible for the preparation of those financial statements, and that the auditor is responsible for expressing an opinion on whether the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. On the second page of our audit opinion, you will see that we issued an unmodified audit opinion on December 21st of 2020, and that is the highest level of audit opinion that the city can receive. I wanted to share with you a little bit about our audit approach. For our governmental audit approach, we perform substantive testing on all of your material assets, liabilities, deferred outflows, and deferred inflows. And that includes vouching information to third-party evidence, sampling transactions, and performing predictive tests. And for revenues and expenses, we start with an analytical approach first, and if the results vary from our expectations, then we perform additional substantive testing. We also perform compliance testing, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. Our audit is performed using a risk-based audit approach, and that audit approach changes every year. So there will always be procedures that we do every year, but we also change the audit approach based on what is happening at the city. And for this year's audit, in addition to our standard audit approach, we did spend additional time in testing over your pension and other post-employment benefit obligations. We focused on the impact of COVID-19 on the city's revenues and expenses. And we also performed special testing of your cash disbursements this year using our data mining software. As part of the audit, we also review internal controls over the key accounting cycles. And I've included on this slide some of those accounting cycles that we look into, although it's not a complete list. And unlike a publicly traded company, government audits do not include an expression of an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. However, if we do identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls, we do report those to you in a separate letter. We have not issued that letter yet because we have to wait until our single audit of federal awards is completed, but we anticipate that to be released later this month. As I mentioned, compliance testing is a unique aspect of a government audit. Under government auditing standards, the auditor is required to design tests for compliance with certain laws and regulations that the auditor believes are direct and material to the financial statements. I've included some of the compliance testing that we perform for the city on this slide. And I am happy to report that as a result of our compliance testing, we did not identify any instances of non-compliance. And as I mentioned before, there's one last compliance test that's going on right now, which is your testing of your expenditures of federal awards under the Single Audit Act. But thus far, there are no compliance issues. And one of the things we always look at is whether the general fund expenditures exceeded the budget that City Council approved. And so I'm happy to report that there was no compliance issues with that test as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jennifer King to go over the financial results with you.
Thank you. So moving on to the financial performance review. And we first look at the general fund. And I'm happy to report that the general fund ended the year in the positive territory despite significant revenue reductions from the pandemic. As you can see on this slide, our revenue had decreased significantly in comparison to the adopted budget by roughly about $4 million. And within 30 days of the declaration of emergency, staff brought to the City Council a multifaceted cost reduction approach to reduce expenditures. In total, all city departments were able to pitch in and reduce our overall general fund expenditures by roughly $6 million. And so that enabled the general fund to end the year in a positive note. If we compare the general fund actual to from year to year, and we can see the impact
You there, Jennifer?
I think Jennifer's probably connection was paused. So let me go ahead and continue until she can
Okay.
join us. As you can tell here from the 18-19 versus the 19-20 general fund actual revenues and expenditure receipts. Let me bring that back in. Let me see. Angie, do you have access to the PowerPoint? I know that you're also host, and see if we can go ahead and bring that up again.
I actually don't have the PowerPoint.
Okay, could you make me co-host then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Technology is at the top of our priority list for this next year.
Agreed.
The Zoom moles are working.
Oh, we like to call them gremlins over in
Gremlins,
finance.
okay.
They like to get into our systems all the time and cause havoc. Let me go ahead and let me make sure I can go ahead and start opening this up while she gives us a minute. Well, let's see. Go ahead and mute and
sorry, I think I just lost somewhere.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, good, because I just lost that my Zoom just disconnected me. Let me go back to resharing screen. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I think so.
yes.
Okay. Where did I lose contact?
It's on this page.
Just on this page?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to re-present this page?
Yes, Jennifer, go ahead and just start over on this slide.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
And this slide shows the general fund's performance, actual performance on a year-to-year basis. And we know COVID has significant impact to the city's revenue this year. You can see on this slide, the revenue decrease was $7 million compared with 18-19. And out of the 7 million, about 2 million is a one-time variance. And in 1819, we received additional $2 million sales tax revenue because CDTFA had glitch when they switched their systems. So we recognize a one-time catch-up revenue of $2 million in 1819. If we remove that one-time impact, the COVID revenue impact to the general fund is roughly $5 million of decrease. And in comparison, the operating expense increased by roughly $2 million on an actual basis. And it is the city aggressively cut back, really working with all departments to cut back on operating expenses as soon as the COVID fiscal impact became apparent. It is not unusual for operating expenses to go up from year to year, simply due to CPI adjustments. And that could be reflected in a variety of areas, from increased pension costs to increased contract costs. So even though despite we had significant reductions in revenue, but we were able to contain the operating expenses to end the year in a positive note. One of the important items of the general fund is its fund balance. And this is a clear indication of the city's financial health. So over the years, the council have committed several important categories of reserve in the general fund in anticipation of disasters or rainy days events. And now it's really, this comes in handy when we are looking at COVID fiscal impact. And we have already, the council has already set aside this funding. They are in the committed category, as you can see on this slide. The other category that is important is the assigned category. And that is that's put aside for the compensated absence, our city managed retirement plan, as well as the Section 115 trust. When we ended the year at June 30th, 2020, and the general funds fund balance increased slightly, 167,000 in the positive. And this is much better performance than what we expected, just because COVID has such an impact to the city's coffer. In the next couple of slides, we'll look at financial results for all funds. And one of the funds that's new this year is the disaster fund for COVID expenditures. And this is the first time we trigger the disaster fund since its establishment. The city had incurred significant expenses in response to COVID mitigations and keeping our staff, keeping everyone safe while we continue with city services. And we have also staff has also aggressively working with different government agencies, federal, state, the county, to secure funding. Our cost recovery effort is ongoing. And at June 30th, we ended the fund with the deficit fund balance. But subsequent to June 30th, we have received funding to replenish that deficit. And the disaster fund for COVID, it's set up to track any COVID expenditures because many of these expenditures are reimbursable by federally sourced funding. And they are the compliance requirements for federal funding. We have to be able to track them separately. And we have, as Jennifer Farr mentioned before, federal government had come out with additional compliance supplements just for COVID funding. And so we are required to track and monitor the compliance of COVID-related expenditures. On this slide, we'll look at all funds for the city as a whole. And this includes the fund types we have talked about before. This includes the general fund, special revenue funds, capital projects fund, our debt service fund, as well as internal service fund. For the year across all funds, our revenue decreased compared to amended budget by $3 million. But our operating expenses decreased more from our cost containment efforts. We decreased operating expenses by $5 million. In totality, we were able to increase our fund balance for all funds across the board. And the city ended up you will see on the CAFR that the city ended the year in a surplus position across all funds. And we have the city's strong financial performance have not gone unnoticed. We have Standard & Poor's has reaffirmed our bond rating for the 2017 lease revenue bonds. And this just happened. We've received the final confirmation in December. And after numerous conversation and a really deep dive into the city's 1920 performance, as well as the city's plans and performance for the 2021 year. And as Standard & Poor's is able to reaffirm the city's AA+ bond rating based on strong performance. And this is a testament to our fiscal health and ability to manage the budget in a critical environment. With that, I'll turn it back to Carol.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much, you and your team, and as well Jennifer Farr, for all of their efforts. I cannot stress enough how much work this takes to come to end the fiscal year in such a positive note in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, as well as be reaffirmed from S&P. It is an element of great pride for not only myself, but I'm sure for the City Council, the leadership team, and I'm hoping for FiPAC as well, to have accomplished not only such positive, strong reaffirmations from S&P, but also to have Davis Farr come with a clean audit for our city's 1920 year end. And that is a testament to our staff, to our employees, as well as our strong leadership. I am very happy to be working alongside Jennifer. I have to tell you, we used to joke sometimes throughout some of the long nights and weekends of, I think We see each other, even if via Zoom, probably more than even our own families have seen us. We actually had multiple meetings over the holidays, including New Year's Eve. But it's a testament to how hard and how hard we work together and how efficiently we're working together to make sure that the city's coffers are well maintained, tracked, monitored, and are able to end in this way. Thank you to both Jennifer King, as well as Jennifer Farr for all of your work. It's a true testament to everything that you have done to be able to provide you with these final resulted numbers. Mayor, I've noticed that you have had your hand up for a bit. Want to go ahead and, no, okay. Just want to go ahead and recognize the City Council as well. I did want to remind you, all of these wonderful results are in line with what we initially did as a team, right? Right when the COVID pandemic hit the city of Costa Mesa, before it hit everybody else, when they were coming to the city with COVID patients, we enacted that disaster fund. Our safety divisions, alongside the leadership team, were proactive in addressing COVID. It put us in a really well place to be proactive in turning this around fiscally for us. Within 30 days, we implemented cost containment plan. We essentially have provided processes within the finance department to ensure only essential purchases were being done. Immediately started to address the multiple, the two scenarios that we came forth with council early in April to start to address some of the fiscal concerns we were seeing with COVID. We enacted reductions across the board from all departments. We took down capital projects so that way we could meet the fiscal reduction that we did see eventually at the end of 1920. Now keep in mind, as these numbers are presented to you today, it is almost a year. Now we're 9-10 months into COVID. 10 months later, we're coming back to you and letting you know everything that the city did was on track. We were able to turn it around. We were able to be proactive. We're seeing it in this CAFR numbers. We were reaffirmed by S&P. And S&P, Wall Street, they look at our CAFR. They definitely go through what are our audited results, what are in there, what did the city do? And then they also look at some of what leadership did. How quickly can we turn this ship around? And we have proven that we can be proactive, we can turn the ship around, we can stay on top of our finances and move forward. As we continue in this pandemic, we're continuing to monitor the situation almost daily. Jennifer and I are constantly looking from our cash to the budget to the revenue streams that are coming on board. And with the this old software system that we are extremely excited to turn around really quick, it's going to take time, but it has presented its additional level of challenges for both Jennifer and I. So to be able to present this to you, I'm very proud to present these numbers to the FiPAC, and we will be presenting these as well to the City Council on Tuesday night. So with that, I will turn it over back to Ralph.
Okay, thank you, Carol, and thank you, Jennifer King. I know it's a lot of work for you and the whole team. I want to open it up to if there's any questions from the committee members. And is Jennifer Farr still on the line, or?
Yes, she's still.
Okay. Any committee member questions? Try and keep them quick here because there's a lot of members and you might have some questions here. Anybody?
I have a question.
Al?
Yeah, so the audited numbers didn't change that much from the preliminary numbers we were working with a few months ago. Is that accurate? Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. That is correct. We had presented two numbers from the last time. They have not changed.
Yeah, they haven't changed much.
And the second question, just to clarify and refresh my memory, how much did the CIP take a hit that enabled us to make everything work out okay? Was it 8 million or 6 million or 10 million?
So originally we had set aside $6 million. However, we ended up not utilizing that $6 million in 1920.
So we postponed $6 million.
No, what we did is we set it aside for in the case that we would need it to close 1920, and we did not need to use it. And
So we
those were
did this-
capital. Those
So
were
we did the
capital-
same, so we did the same projects. We were able to consummate those projects
Well, those projects.
as originally planned.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding your question. What do you mean as originally planned? Those projects were identified by public services as projects that were either going to be delayed anyways, they weren't going to be using the funds. So we went ahead and took those funds and put them aside in case we needed them. We took it to council for their approval. We ended up not using those funds. Those funds are currently available still.
Okay, I understand.
Anybody
That's all
else?
I have.
I had a comment.
Tom Pollock?
Super job, you guys. That took a lot of work. On your one slide, you had that the numbers were in millions. I don't think our revenue was 14 billion. So I think you might want to change that. But otherwise, super presentation. Thanks a lot for all your hard work.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Wendy?
I think you said you were gonna put this on the agenda for next month regarding the 115 trust, because it was a while back that we did recommend to the city council after a lot of analysis, and that this was a good decision to set aside this money to be used only for paying pensions in the future if it came to that. So that money was kind of commingled that I know what you called it, the set aside in one of the categories.
It's in
So
the
is it-
unassigned.
Yeah, is it still the will of the city council to move that actually to the 115 trust people?
So let me go ahead and clarify that those funds are not commingled. They are set aside. They're committed with its own classification. So that money is not part of the economic reserves. It's not part of the declared disasters. It's
Okay.
specifically set aside for the Section 115 trust and has not been touched. To my knowledge, there is no interest by the city council to utilize that funds other than for the Section 115 trust.
So is it in a trust right now?
No, currently it is still in the general fund committed fund balance. We have decided to continue that until the stock market provides a little bit more stability. Right now, in the last few months, as you may know, the stock market has been pretty unstable. And so at this point, we have kept it in the fund balance, and we will be coming back to that Section 115 trust.
Okay, so
Ralph?
it's your, well, so just to finish, it's going to be your recommendation then when the market stabilizes to the city council that actually be moved to the trust.
The city council has already approved the movement of those funds into the Section 115 trust.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Ralph?
Bob?
Yeah, well, first of all, we got to set up the trust. We haven't set up the trust yet.
Right.
The trust is set up.
So we got to set it up before we spend that money somewhere else. But really, Carol, my main point is, could you send that slide presentation to us by email?
Yes, we can do that. We'll make those corrections. Thank you, committee member.
Thank you.
Tom,
And I'll just repeat Tom's comment. Great job, you guys. I know you worked very hard and we appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Ralph.
Katrina?
So, Ms. Molina, before I ask my question, can you clarify about the trust? Because I think there was some confusion still.
So the Section 115 trust, those dollars are currently set aside in the general fund reserves category as such, as a Section 115 trust. At this point, since those monies are committed, we are not allowed to touch that money without the council. The council has made it clear with the actions for the 2021 and the 1920 year end plans that we would be authorized to use either declared disasters and economic reserves funds, not the Section 115 trust. So at this point in time, that money would not be utilized. It is set aside, it's committed, and its sole purpose at this point is for the Section 115 trust as per authorized by the City Council.
Okay. You know what might be helpful for us is if the committee would be willing to craft a letter and pen a letter, maybe signed by all the members we could send it to our congressional representatives and our US senators, because if you could put that slide back up that shows the reimbursements and the disaster relief fund, as you can see, we haven't been reimbursed. And so we've submitted all of our requests for reimbursement, and it's more than 3 million at this point. This is just the last fiscal year, but we've had more expenses this fiscal year. And so it would be helpful, I think, we're all writing letters and advocating for this, but it would be helpful maybe if the committee would be willing to write a letter requesting that FEMA be more prompt in reimbursing the city for the expenses that are all COVID related. This amount that's been reimbursed to date, that, Carol, if I'm correct, that's mostly the CARES Act funding, right?
That is correct. It's a CARES Act.
Yeah. So we haven't been reimbursed from FEMA, Ms. Molina, is it right? Zero, right? We have no, yeah.
No, correct. We have received no money.
In almost a year. So, and I do want to just repeat what you mentioned and put a fine point on it. Under the leadership of our city manager, who has had experience in emergency disasters, we quickly declared an emergency. What was so important about that was that we started being able to qualify for reimbursement as early as, I think it was like February or March. So because we declared so early, we've been able to, once we eventually get reimbursed, to track all those dollars. And that put us in a better position than even the county or many of our other cities in the county. So thank you for that good advice. And thank you all for helping us to get to this point. I know we have lots of different projects that have come on board during this last year that are going to increase our revenue from other sources that we didn't have this last year. So I think this next year will be even better.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Ralph?
Can you put Tom Arnold?
Yeah, I have a clarification question. So the difference, that we haven't been reimbursed, is the difference between the 2309, 380 that we're in the hole right now in that fund, and what was received more recently, which is 1,636,653. That's
can you put that slide up again?
That's right. And maybe Ms. Molina can actually get you the updated numbers, if you're willing to prepare a letter, because the number has increased, obviously.
Okay, so but with these numbers, I show 672,727 unreimbursed at this point. Is that correct?
No, the difference only in here is probably you'll see $700,000 is unreimbursed. We've received $1.6 million from the CARES Act funding in the current fiscal year. So what the mayor is clarifying here, what's not shown are the year-to-date expenditures for the disaster. So we have incurred significant additional monies in the current fiscal year that we have not been reimbursed for. And that's a much larger amount at this point. Last time I checked, we're closer to being at this point $2 million upside down, including the 1.6. We're doing some final cleanups and stuff. It's a continuous moving process. for this fund, but I want to thank the mayor for bringing that up. I do know that there has been some discussion of potentially new legislation to be introduced to help cities, specifically in the one area that the legislatures have not been wanting to, which is the loss of revenue as well. So there's a couple components. It's the FEMA lack of reimbursement, even though we've had multiple meetings with them throughout the last few months, and the documentation that they require. We've received no monies from FEMA, but there is also that additional layer of the loss of revenues due to COVID that has not been addressed for municipalities and states across the country.
So our letter would need a component of as of this date, kind of a component.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else, any other? Can you show that chart again?
So, Ralph,
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, Wendy.
Oh, okay.
Can you show that chart again? I'm sorry, Jennifer.
Sure, no problem.
So there was concern amongst, and maybe this is for Jennifer Farr also. There was concern on some members' part that basically the city broke even last year, positive, 167K, but this 2.3 million is hanging out there that was charged to the disaster fund. I guess I'd like to hear Jennifer Farr say that was proper not to include that 2.3 in the general fund reporting for last year. And kind of a second question, from what I think I understand you said, then you're in the process of auditing the applicability of the monies being spent because of COVID to make sure they're proper expenditures that would get reimbursed for COVID, either from CARES or from FEMA or from whoever?
Correct. For most of our clients, most of our city clients, they did exactly what the city of Costa Mesa did, which is set up a separate fund to keep track of those expenses. And that's because the funds are going to be audited. And in order to submit for reimbursement and in order to pass the audit, you need to identify the specific dollars that are being covered by the CARES Act and other funding. You can't have a double dipping, so you can't have, let's say, the general fund pay for an expense and then also submit it for a federal grant program. So it is important that they are tracked separately, and we are currently auditing under the CARES Act. You can see the total revenue line that has the $1,068,000. That amount of revenue and related expenditures are what we're testing right now. And then next year, the 1.6 million that has come in thus far will be subject to audit as well.
But are you auditing the 3.377 for the properness, I guess, of those expenses being charged to the disaster account?
So for this year, we're only auditing the amount that's covered by the revenues for this year. So only a million of the 3 million, and then the following year will cover the rest of it. But absolutely, that's the primary test that we perform, is determine whether or not the expenditures are eligible for funding under the federal grant guidelines, which is why we had to wait for those federal guidelines to be released.
Okay, is there any concern so far that any of that money would not be reimbursed?
We haven't started the audit yet. We're just in the planning stages. But it's my understanding from discussions with the city that they understand the restrictions and that the only allowable expenditures are in that fund.
Okay.
Covered.
Can you, Jennifer, can you go back to the chart that compares last year to I guess 18-19 and 19-20 on the
Federal fund or for all funds?
I think it's all funds.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. So what's under CIP, the 51.2 million in 1920. I mean, that's a hell of a big difference. The amended budget had 51 million, the actuals were 13 million.
So for in the amended budget, the cities, over the years, the city council has approved a variety of CIP projects. And most CIP projects are not done within the year. They usually stretch for 2-3 years out, depending on the size of the project. So the approved budget for a particular project is carried forward until it's completed. Therefore,
Okay, so,
the
so
budget,
in my mind, you're thinking that 51 million of projects would have been completed in that year, but only 13 million got completed?
yes.
Okay.
So,
So-
yes,
so-
15
just-
million is really for multi-year projects.
Got it.
Not for
Okay,
one
so there's a lot of projects that are still in project or in process then that weren't completed last year as anticipated. Okay.
Well, it wouldn't be anticipated. Just to kind of drive home a little bit what Jennifer said, these are funds that were specifically set aside for multi-year projects. So you
Got
would
it.
not anticipate the full 51 million to be spent in 1 year. In any circumstance, whether we're in COVID or not. It's
No,
just,
but not spent, but that was what would have been completed in.
no. Because when a capital project is approved by the city council, it's a multi-year project. Those funds are at that point recognized for that capital project, and those funds are set aside. So
Right.
that way that capital project is fully funded and can move forward across the multiple years. As each year moves, that funding moves with it. The
Got
balance.
it. Okay, I understand that. Okay, I think I understand. Okay.
Some of the projects didn't have as much expense because we weren't able to do the work.
Right. Yeah, so, no, I understand now, I think. Yeah, also, it'd really be helpful if I know you guys are busy, but it'd really be helpful if these charts could be sent out a little bit before the meeting so we have a chance to look at them beforehand. And I guess with that, I again thank Carol and Jennifer, all three of you and your teams for the CAFR. I know that's a lot of work. And then if Carol or if Angie could send out an email, I guess when the CAFRs are available, if members want to stop by and pick up a copy, that would be helpful. Wendy, you had a comment? Oh,
Yeah,
also, I guess I would like to, we're bouncing around with 115, and Carol and I have talked about it also, but I guess I'm coming around saying, council approved to move those $115 into a trust, and why let's move out on getting that moved into the trust as anticipated. Plus, it will protect those dollars from being spent for any other purpose. And that was part of the intention, was to protect those dollars. Wendy, you had a comment?
Well, I heard the mayor's recommendation that FiPAC write a letter. And I think she said to Congress, maybe our senators in Congress, maybe there's some other people. So what, Ralph, what do you suggest that we do to draft a letter and then send it out and then sign it as far as citizens?
Yeah, we could draft a letter I could get back with Carol or Jennifer, but or the mayor to see, because we want to cover all the bases. I guess the primary reimburser would be FEMA, based on the category of expenses that we've expended the money. So yeah, we could draft if that would help. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's hundreds of cities in line with FEMA.
Can I say something, Ralph? It would help, and we would use our lobbyists to get it to the right people. It wouldn't be just like we're just sending it off to the black hole. We would
Okay.
use our lobbyists to get it in front of the right people.
Well, I think
Is-
it's prudent to do that as a citizen committee. There are tax dollars and yeah, there's a bureaucracy, but I like the fact that there's a lobbyist, that it would be effective and not
Is-
just go out into the inner space.
Right.
out of-
We're just asking for more timely reimbursement, right?
Yeah,
What's wrong with that?
nothing.
What is it, ACCOC? Are they also kind of working this issue?
They are, and so are all 34 mayors. We've sent communications. I've personally been in contact with what was our 7 Congress members. So we'll reiterate our request with the new Congress members. So according to Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, they had a meeting with FEMA. FEMA was supposed to be, getting on it. It sounds like Ms. Molina had a meeting with FEMA and they said the same thing. I do think having it come from a citizens advisory group would be meaningful, because we just need them to make it more of a priority.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that.
Great.
Okay. With that, I think, thank you again, Jennifer and Carol. If I could circle back a minute, primarily for the mayor, you mentioned, I think, then the appointments for not just FiPAC, for all the committees, that's going to be in a February council meeting then?
Yeah, so what happened was the council, at Councilmember Reynolds' request at the prior meeting, requested that we do appointments to the Parks Commission per district. And then the council approved that, but the language in the resolution wasn't.
Oh, that's right.
changed.
Okay.
So we got actually a lot of applicants for the committees, but we're only going to appoint Planning Commission at this next meeting, because we need to get a planning commissioner appointed because of the vacancy by Commissioner Harlan, now Councilmember Harlan. And so we'll move all the rest of the appointments and the Parks Commission appointments to the, what would that be, the February?
Is the first or second meeting in February?
It'll be the first meeting in February. Let me tell you what the date is. February 2nd.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so February 2nd
So
for,
there'll be another, sorry, Ralph, there'll be another recruitment because of it, because we have to give 10 days notice on the recruitment after the change. The council is going to be voting on the change to the Parks Commission resolution on Tuesday night. And then they have to give notice after that.
okay, now I'm confused. So what's February 2nd then?
That's when we vote on the new Parks Commission appointments and all the committees.
Okay, but you mentioned there's no
New applications?
there's not another application period, is there?
The recruitment is going to be opened up, I guess, for everyone. That's my understanding. I'm going to check. I have a call with Brenda tomorrow to find out if that's the case.
Okay.
We'll know Tuesday night for sure, because
I guess if you've already applied, there's no action required.
correct.
Okay.
So you-
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see, we got city staff comments, Carol or Jennifer, and then after that, liaison comments. So Carol or Jennifer?
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. Just wanted to thank FiPAC, the city's leadership, and staff for all of their hard work. Working through COVID has not been easy. We do have staggered shifts in finance, and with the limited staff that we do have, it's been a challenge. And I do want to recognize all of their hard work. It has not gone unnoticed. All of the hours that it takes to maintain finance at this time, it's not easy. I did want to address one of the comments from last FiPAC member, Tom Pollitt. I'm sorry, I think my Sorry, my little computer glitch. Member Tom Pollitt had written in a comment regarding a bus mobile command center. It's actually a mobile command vehicle over at the police department, and we don't have a bus. It's about 23 years old. We're still have that mobile command vehicle in the police department. It has not been replaced. We have not sold any assets in 1920 to cover any of the shortfalls. The shortfalls were strictly addressed by really pulling back on those expenditures and getting ahead of the revenue shortfalls that we were anticipating, which ended up occurring in that last quarter of the fiscal year. And I did want to remind everybody, I know we've been like 10, 11 months into this, but in 1920, it hit in April, which means we only had May and June. We only had 2 months in 1920 to get ahead of the revenue reductions. And none of those revenue reductions included any selling off of assets, any city assets. It was fully a concerted team effort to get ahead of the expenditure side and pull it back in the last 2.5 months of the fiscal year. And that is, we verified that multiple times. Jennifer and I kept looking at it. It's like, I see it from my office, the mobile command vehicle. We had discussed the financing for that at some point in time, but the police department, obviously with COVID and the pandemic, has had other priorities during this time, and we have not addressed that mobile command vehicle at this time. We are aware it's about 23, 24 years old. However, due to the staffing issues, as most of it obviously related to having to pivot all of our roles into full pandemic recovery mode and ensuring that we maintain services for the city residents. This has not been a priority for the police department to tackle at this time. So I'm hoping.
My question was, in the budget 2 years ago, I know for a fact we put $500,000 aside for the purchase of the bus. And then the next year we were going to put another $500,000 aside. And then the next year after that, they decided that they needed another $1 million for the communications for the bus. So here we're going to a 3 years timeline here. We've been going over this bus, and apparently it was never purchased. And I'm just wondering where the money, if it was set aside, where the money is. That's all I was asking.
Yeah. So let me just rectify. It's not a bus. It's a mobile command vehicle, and with with the specs of being able to bring a mobile command vehicle into the police department, there are significant technology requirements that need to be addressed just for the pure nature of public safety. I can't speak to the prior 2 years. I can speak about this last year since it's the only time I've been here for the city, that COVID has overtaken us and we have not had the opportunity to address where this would be as far as a priority. Have spoken to the chief at this time, and the mobile command vehicle is not his number one priority. His number one priority right now is to stay on top of COVID and the safety requirements under his purview. Mayor, looks like you had maybe something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we're going to defer to the chief and what he puts together for this upcoming budget as to what the police department's priorities are, because he knows best, he and his team, as to what the priorities are. And the prior discussions about the mobile command vehicle, up until just the last discussion, never included going out and getting an estimate for anything. It was just setting money aside with a guesstimate, I'll call it. And so the last go round, we actually did get some estimates, and that's where the money was allocated. Now, of course, since then, we've all been doing cost containment and reprioritizing. and that we'll just defer to the chief as to what his priority is. I know that eventually we need to do that. We need to get the mobile command vehicle. Once we are back to having our lives back to normal, it'll be important to have, because we use it out in the field when people are gathering and we're at different events and things like that. But, you know, we're not supposed to be gathering right now, so.
Okay. Carol, anything else?
That was all I had. I know that there was some questions regarding to the pension. We can address that later. I wanted to really focus today on the great efforts and results that we're seeing from our 1920 great plan and pivoting that we did as a team. This is another testament to how strong our team is, how quickly we're able to turn around our finances for the betterment of our city coffers. And the S&P that was recently released in November, alongside with this CAFR, is just a reaffirmation that we're doing the right things. We're getting ahead of our finances. We're implementing the controls in place that are needed in the city, and we're moving forward. I have to be honest with you, I'm very proud to be part of this team, to know that we can really pivot this around, and finance is definitely a priority for our city council and our leadership team. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank our finance team. You all did an amazing job. You gave us a lot of great guidance, many conversations, and lots of brainstorming led to, I think, really successful results. So thank you. You can't get those many hours of life back. We know that, but hopefully you will feel comforted in knowing that you were part of something very historic for our city, and you kept us able to continue to operate and serve the community in a meaningful way during these really challenging times like no other. So thank you. Can't thank you enough. I know no matter how many times we say thank you, it never will seem enough. But I do want to just report a couple of exciting bits of news, and maybe at some future meeting, Ms. Molina can give us a little bit of an update, a preview maybe. But we do have a new auto dealer in town on Bristol Street, and it is the Fletcher Jones Audi dealership. And that Audi dealership is already becoming like one of the highest grossing dealerships in the country. And so we have them right here in Costa Mesa. The projections are very high in terms of increasing our revenue from auto sales. You know, they're very high-end vehicles. So we are very excited about that. We might even have another potential similar auto dealer coming into town. So really good news at a time when we need some good news about revenues. And I know we'll see this more later, but anecdotally, I'm hearing from the plaza, maybe they're not going to have like a record year this year, but they're going to have a solid year. And so that's good for us as well. And so just really surprised by how well we were able to come out of this. And the vaccine is rolling out for those of you who are interested in that. We have the Orange County Fairgrounds will be opening up probably within a week or two. I think they say or two because they don't want me to get anyone too excited about it being earlier. But they there's sort of some trying to get the quirks out with regard to the rollout at Disneyland, which started yesterday and today, and long lines, which we want to try to avoid. We have the privilege of having our fire chief, Dan Stefano, who is really a part of the incident management team for all of the super sites and the pods that are opening up for the vaccine distribution. And that's really great for us because we get information real time. It's also great for us because our fire departments across Orange County, all the cities, the Orange County Fire Authority, they're used to incident management. They're used to responding to emergencies, all the logistics of that. And so I think we would be in big trouble if we didn't have them helping us get this set up, because there's already lots of, struggles with the app. And if you haven't downloaded the app yet or gone to the website, it's called othena.com. It's OTHENA.com. And you basically register there, and then they'll give you a time when you can make your appointment to go get your vaccination if you want to. So I know some people aren't going to do that, but hopefully most will. So that, again, we can get back to living our best lives, because I think that's what we all want.
That's good news. It's like we can't even remember what pre-COVID was like.
I know, it's crazy. So that's where we are. And I appreciate everything you've all done. Your role in helping us and making recommendations through this time period has been valuable, and we will continue to rely on you. And I hope you'll do that letter.
Okay, just a quick one. I mentioned earlier, is there between Carol or Katrina, is there a date? Typically February is a mid-year study session. Has that been set yet? Do you know?
Correct. Thank you, Ralph, for reminding me. Yes, we will be coming to the City Council mid-year. We will also be presenting to the City Council at the strategic planning retreat. So we'll have.
Do you know when? You know what? Because our next meeting is February 10th.
Right. So the City Council planning retreat is January 29th. You'll get, that's a public meeting. It'll be on Zoom. You'll be able to listen in, and there'll be a report at that meeting. And then there'll be another discussion at a study session after that. And then you'll have the discussion at your FiPAC meeting.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking about. So, Carol, are you looking that we could have a review of the mid-year at our next February session, committee meeting?
Yes, that is my hope, to be able to bring it forward.
Which is the 10th.
Yes.
Okay, then is the study session with council, is that after the 10th?
It's January 29th.
Okay,
We're
that's
going
your
to
goal
be presented the information first on January 29th. Then you'll get it on the 10th.
That's good.
Okay, so are you having a separate mid-year study session typically, which you typically have?
Right.
Or is that incorporated into is that mid-year review incorporated into the January 29th goal-setting meeting?
The January 29th goal setting meeting, we will be talking about the city's coffers, how we are doing in this year. Our intent is to provide the city council where we are at the mid-year point. We will be coming back to the city council at a city council meeting to present the mid-year as a standalone and with any adjustments that may be needed at that time for them to take action. So we'll be coming back multiple times to the city council. So we will be coming back to the FiPAC in February to see where we're at that point as well.
Okay. 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 Well, with that, I think we can adjourn. Can I can somebody make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So move.
Okay, that's Wendy and Bob Judman, and then we'll adjourn to our next meeting is on February 10th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good next month. Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe. Thanks, Ralph. Thank you, Mayor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.